let's talk to Al in West Virginia if we can. Al, tell us what's on your mind today.
Well, I was wondering what you guys think about near-death experiences.
In terms of what?
Yes, such a broad question.
Well, I guess, it's been on my mind because, I'm an older guy. I'm 72. Mm-hmm. One of my best friends is suffering from pancreatic cancer and is expected to die any day. I've buried 2 wives. Another best friend died recently of a heart attack. And I guess I've been looking into it more, and I never really put a lot of thought into it. But I kind of had a near-death experience about 10 years ago of my own, not to the extent that, other people talk about the light and the tunnel and all that and the life review. All I had was just, I started choking on something and I blacked out. Oh. And what I had was just like a sense of peace. I don't know. It was just, which may just be, preparing myself to just go into nothingness. I don't know. But anyway, so I've been watching different YouTube videos, and I found this one guy who is a doctor, and he's a radiologist, an oncologist, and he has studied over 4,000 near-death experiences. And with the data that he has, it shows that there might be something to it. And I was just wondering what your thoughts as atheists were.
I don't want to be incredulous about it, but I'd like to ask where his data is published, right? Like what peer-reviewed journal collated and went through his research to suggest anything. Setting that notion aside, I'll say very briefly that a near-death experience, almost by definition, is something that you experience in consciousness as your brain is not functioning at its most optimal. And brains are weird and they do weird things. And I think that explains the vast majority of these experiences, even if we're not always able to run them to ground. But Sydney, I interrupted you. Please jump in here.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, you said he found there may be something to it. Something to what specifically? What was it that he found?
Well, just that there are people that experience near-death experiences that, life could continue to go on. Now, as for your comments about the peer review and things like that, I don't know because I haven't deep dived enough in that. And I'm actually a journalist. I've been 55 years come September 1st in radio, so I know how to do my homework. But I do know that the University of Virginia had a similar program that has a lot of documentation to it. I can't remember the other question.
Oh, no, it's okay. So I think that one, near-death experiences are probably quite different from person to person. I've actually had quite a few, and I'm in school right now getting my master's in writing, and I just wrote a short story about the number of times I've almost died. And I, like you, typically experience that sense of peace. And I think a part of that peace comes from the fact that I am an atheist and I don't think there's anything coming for me and I'm not worried about hell anymore. Part of that peace, I think, comes from whatever's happening, whether it's like a lack of oxygen or something like that. But I also think that your brain will do whatever it has to do or whatever it thinks it needs to do to keep you alive. And sometimes that involves just neurons firing like crazy because they can tell something's going on. And typically, from what I understand, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, our bodies very rarely want us to die. And so even when the person might be emotionally settled with the idea that they're going to die, maybe they have a terminal illness, maybe they're in a dangerous situation they just recognize they can't get out of, your body is doing whatever it's got to do to keep that consciousness going, to keep you thinking, to keep you trying, to keep you on your toes. And I think after a certain point, that just becomes illusions and light and thoughts and just kind of like dreams. You know how dreams can just come from wherever. And a lot of people have similar dreams and a lot of people have totally different, weird, distinct dreams. So I personally, obviously I have a problem with near-death experiences. Like I never want to experience another one, right? But I think a lot of the way that people experience and respond to those have to do with factors that are so, I don't want to say convoluted, that are so innumerate. Are they stressed when it's happening? Are they at the best point in their life when it's happening? Have they been having a terrible entire year up until the moment it's happening? Are they on drugs when it happens? Are they not on? Were they expecting it? Were they not? Did they have a moment of preparation because of a long-term illness, or did it happen in the blink of an eye in an accident? There are so many intricate parts, I think, that I would imagine go into these near-death experiences, that it would surprise me to find out that this can be measured scientifically. And that's kind of where I think I agree with Christy, in that I would be curious to see where this person, and I know you said you don't remember off the top of your head, and I don't think you should have to, but I would be curious to see where this person gets their data, because to me, there are so many factors that go into these experiences. I just don't see a feasible way that we can possibly measure that as a measurement of any kind.
In at least one interview I saw with him, is that they even had people that were absolutely no brain activity at all. They were on machines. You know, he's a doctor, he's a radiologist, he deals with death every day. And I don't know. He has a research foundation, NDERF.com, and you know, you can look it up yourself, I guess, and look more into it. I don't know. It does seem, of course, again, I'm an older gentleman, so I'm closer to that point than you guys are. But you know, it does seem to be you know, a peaceful state of mind. And I've never believed in hell. I mean, that's why I stopped being a Christian 50 years ago. I looked that up, and first of all, hell isn't hell anyway. It was a garbage pit outside of Jerusalem, and modern day Americans don't realize that there was something valuable that came out of that, and that was the fertilizer for the fields for new growth. You know, so you know, when Jesus talked about hell, the term was Gehenna in the New Testament, and it was a garbage pit, you know. But anyway, well, thank you, you know, for taking my call. And you know, I don't know. I just found it interesting. I'd like to, and I thought I'd get your take on it.
Yeah, and I think that would be interesting to poll people too, to just be out on the street and ask people, hey, have you ever had a near-death experience? What was it like? Give me like a brief rundown. Did you see lights? Did you not? What were your thoughts? I would love to have that conversation with people. I just think from a scientific angle, I would be curious how they could measure that exactly.
Well, and even as we do start to kind of code the commonalities in these experiences, I think you could get very similar data by asking people about their dreams, by asking people about their drug experiences. And certainly you will hear people who try to bring in these sort of supernatural elements to try and explain these things. The truth is, our brains are meaning-making machines. So especially when something has been sort of broken or taken offline or has been damaged in some way, we're going to get a very strange flow of data, and we're going to try to form a narrative. We're going to try to create a story out of it one way or another. And it's, I think it's just dangerous to be careless in the narratives that we actually accept here.
Yeah. And I just thought this was interesting. I looked it up, and they have the Near Death Experience Research Foundation. They also, the same group has the After Death Communication Research Foundation. And then they also have the Out of Body Experience Research Foundation. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, okay. I've never really looked them up, to be honest with you. My sister did when I told her about it. But yeah, I'm not on the internet all that much. I use YouTube a lot, but it's smart TV. So
sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for calling. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question.